Parkland School, the Orlando nightclub, the Vegas Strip. These are three massacres that have happened in the past 2 years that have caused over hundreds of people to die because gun laws are not strict enough. This leads me to my topic, why the USA should have stricter gun control. So 3 reasons I believe this is because 1, it is too accessible to vulnerable people. 2, it can help reduce mass shootings. And 3, I simply believe that the process of obtaining a weapon in the USA is too simple. So a little history on guns. The Second Amendment was created in 1791, and this is the right to bear arms. This allows U.S. citizens to buy and obtain weapons in their own home for their safety. So, however, with no rules, many people took advantage. This caused, in 1934, the National Firearms Act to be put in place. And what this was, it put policies on weapons and it helped reduce crime rate. Also what it allowed was, it allowed the government to put taxes on these weapons so that they were less affordable for people to buy and sell so many weapons. A tax of $200 was put onto these weapons, and this allowed for the government to control more of the weapon distribution. So in 1938, the government required all owners of firearms to obtain a license to their weapons. On top of this, convicted felons were no longer available to buy these weapons, so this was another way of reducing crime. Although company records were supposed to be taken, the black market unfortunately was still available. What the black market is it allows people to buy and sell weapons that are unmarked so the police cannot trace them. And this is just an avenue for criminals to go and obtain guns for bad. In 1986, however, gun laws became less strict again, and people were allowed to buy and sell guns at trade, and for some reason it allowed citizens to believe they were more protected. In 1994, the Law Enforcement Act signed a law banning all semi-automatic rifles from 1994 to 2004. This was a 10-year span. This was to limit crime due to the amount of mass shootings that had happened, and this has been lifted and rifles are allowed again. Since then, not many gun laws have changed, and it's kind of been very much the same since 2004. And criminal violence, unfortunately, is still a very large issue in the world today. So reason 1, they're too accessible to vulnerable people. So I want to talk about the weapon age. CBS News claims that the federal law states that you must be the age of 21 to obtain a firearm, but they have seen other states drop to as low as the age of 14 where they can buy a weapon. Even though you must be a certain age, this does not mean one should be able to obtain a weapon because there are many different standards in which people may not be healthy enough to obtain a weapon. Although one very, very small part of the gun ownership may use these weapons in a negative way, we are very unsure as to who these people are when they're buying a weapon. These laws do not limit the quantity of weapons allowed. With only 3% owning 50% of weapons, people are at a great disadvantage safety-wise. This much power can really damage a country, and possible limitation of weapon quantity may be a way in helping this crime rate to go down. So as you can see in this chart here, only 3% of gun owners in the USA own all 50% of guns, and I believe this number is way too crazy. 3% of the population should not own 50% of the guns. It should be limited to like maybe 1 or 2 weapons per person, one for hunting and one for safety. The decision to harm someone is very inhumane and cruel. With firearms, unfortunately, this is a very powerful weapon that can be used to ruin many lives. A firearm is virtually undefendable against, and so it is such an unfair advantage if somebody points a weapon at somebody that is very innocent. As you can see in this image here, this girl is just standing here and the guy pulls a weapon on her. She has no way to defend herself because this weapon has so much range. So reason 2, this may reduce death by firearm. All countries listed are very strict with firearm except the USA, which is listed at the bottom here. Although these countries still have deaths via weapons, it is very limited compared to the USA. It is no coincidence that this is the way it is. Now, if you look here at this graph, the USA has 66 deaths per firearm per 1 million people, and compared to the other, this is double a second, which is Finland at 33. This is drastic. In 1994, the ban of semi-automatic rifles, as I've already talked about, so President Clinton's idea of the ban created a significant impact on the decrease of the USA's crime rate. The chart provides great evidence. So as you can see, in 1984 to 1994, the deaths via firearm are 155 per 100 people. Now the incidence in 1994 to 2004 dropped all the way down to 89 people. But when this ban was lifted again in 2004, this went all the way up to 302 people. So although there will never be a way to completely eliminate weapons, we can suppress it as we've seen in Clinton's Act in 1994 to 2004. There should not be a reason for people to own so many weapons. So this leads me to reason 3, the law comparison between Canada and US of obtaining a firearm. So Canada has 6 steps. The first step is they should prove where the gun will be used. The second step, they should complete a safety course after passing a written and practical test to obtain the weapon. The third step is they must obtain 2 references. These 2 references must be very accessible people over a phone, and they must be very reliable. Number 4, they have to apply for a permit that takes 28 days to be confirmed, and this is a long time because it gives the government a lot of time to look over your profile and why they believe that you are available and accessible to obtain a weapon. Number 5, you must pass a background check that will deny the buyer if there are any red flags. So some red flags consist of any criminal activity or any previous mental health things that you've been involved with. And number 6, you must buy the weapon and register with the police. This is very important because now the police know where their guns are being distributed and how many people obtain weapons. Now in the USA, however, there are only 2 steps. You must pass an instant background check and buy a gun. This slide is so empty because it really is that simple. Anyone can just go to their local firearm weapons store and buy a weapon after they pass the instant background check, and they don't even have to register it with the police. So in 2017, there are a couple comparisons of homicides via guns. In Canada, there were 249 deaths via firearm, and USA, 39,773 deaths. As shown, the process of obtaining a gun in the 2 countries is very different. And with more steps to obtaining a weapon, it limits the variety of people who can actually purchase these weapons. And as you can see, Canada really does eliminate the people who may be using them for bad. And I believe the USA should really take some thought into maybe doing similar to what Canada is doing with the gun industry. So history and other nations have proved what the impact of strict gun laws can have in a community. Being able to obtain a weapon at any time leaves people vulnerable to violence. Even without fully reducing or banning the use of guns, it can be reduced, and this will limit the types of people who can obtain the weapons. Stricter gun laws manifest a safer community where people feel protected against something as bad happening to them. That is why I believe gun laws in the USA should be a lot more stricter. Thank you.